In this video, you will learn how to add and subtract decimals, and also how to estimate the sum or difference of two or more decimals. So beginning with adding decimals. And I guess with adding and subtracting, the rules are basically the same as when you add and subtract with a regular whole number. So for example, if you had 5.4 plus 2.7, when I set up the problem, just make sure that each place value is lined up. So for example, right here you would line it up like this, where you have the tens place, the 4 and the 7 lined up, and you have the units place, or the ones place, the 5 and the 2 lined up. And the addition is exactly the same. We do 4 plus 7 to get 11, so we take the 1 and then carry the 1 to the ones place. Then we add 1 plus 5 to get 6. 6 plus 2 is 8. So my solution is 8.1. So the decimal point would stay right where it was. So it was between the ones place and the tenths place. And again, when I add together, the decimal point stays right there between the ones and the tenths place. Let's try another example. Here we have 12.69 plus 7.5. Now when you set this one up, we begin with a 12.69. And then again, remember to line up the different place values. So the 7 right here, that is my ones place, right? So when I line it up with a 12.69, make sure it's lined up with the ones place here. So the ones place for 12.69 is the 2, so the 7 lines up with the 2. And then you have 0.5. 5 is the tenths place. That lines up with the tenths place for 12.69, which would be the 6. And if you want, you can put a 0 at the end of 7.5 to show that there's 0 in the hundreds place. So now when I add, I'm going to add from right to left. So we do 9 plus 0 to get 9. 6 plus 5 is 11. So we take the 1 and then carry the other 1. Now we have 1 plus 2 plus 7, which is 10. So we take the 0 from 10, carry the 1. Now we have 1 plus 1, which is 2. And the decimal point stays in line with where it was, which would take it right here. So my solution is going to be 20.19. Now for subtracting decimals, the rule again is the same thing. So if you had 5.4 minus 2.7, for example, again, when I set this up, make sure that we line up the ones place and the tenths place. So when I set up, it's going to look like this. So the 5 and the 2 are lined up because those are both in the ones place. The 4 and the 7 are lined up because those are both in the tenths place. And I subtract like normal. So I work from right to left. 4 minus 7 does not work because 7 is bigger than 4. So I need to borrow from the 5. So the 5 becomes a 4. And the one that I borrow goes over here with the 4 in the ones place. So now we have 14 minus 7, which is 7. And then 4 minus 2, which would be 2. And the decimal stays right here to get 2.7. So my answer is 2.7. Now another example, if we had 12.69 minus 7.5. And again, when I set up, make sure that everything is lined up. So we have the 12.69, and then 7.5 to line it up. The 7 is the ones place, which lines up with the 2, which is also in the ones place. Decimal goes here, and the 5 is in the tenths place, so it's going to go right below the 6, which is also in the tenths place. And then if I want, I can add a 0 at the end of 7.5 to show that we have 0 in the hundreds place. So this is my setup, and the subtraction process is exactly the same. So we just work from right to left. 9 minus 0 is 9. 6 minus 5 is 1. And then 2 minus 7 doesn't work. So I borrow from the 1. That becomes 0. And the one that I borrow goes here with the 2. So that becomes 12 minus 7, which is 5. The decimal stays lined up, which would put it right here. So my solution is 5.19. Next, we're going to learn how to estimate by rounding. And we've done this before with whole numbers, and the process is the same with decimals. So for example, if you were told to estimate 18.5 plus 45.63 by rounding to the greatest place, what I do is I look at the greatest place for both numbers. So for 18.5, that would be the 1 right here. So to round the 1, we look at the number after, which would be the 8. And because it is 5 or bigger, the 1 would round up to a 2. So this would be a 2 followed by zeros. So we have 20.0 or just 20, same thing. And then the second number over here, we need to round the 4. And to round, we look at the number after, which would be the 5. And because this is 5 or bigger, I round the 4 up to a 5, which makes this 5 followed by zeros. And it's going to be 5, 0, and then 0.00. But no need to write the zeros after the decimal point. So this would be just written as 20 plus 50. And we would say that this is approximately 20 plus 50. So that symbol is my approximate symbol. And then we do 20 plus 50, and that gives me my estimation of around 70. So my rounded answer would be 70. Next, for subtraction, if we had 62.413 minus 25.1. And again, we are trying to round or estimate by rounding to the greatest place. What I do is I round the 6, and to do that I look at the number after, which would be the 2. So to round, the 2 is less than 5, which means the 6 would remain as it is. That's going to be 6 followed by zeros, which would be 60. And then for 25.1, I need to round the 2, and to do that I look at the number after the 2, which would be the 5. So because 5 is 5 or bigger, the 2 would round up to a 3. So we have 3 followed by zeros, which would be 30. So we have approximately 60 minus 30, which would give me my estimation of 30. So my rounded answer would be 30. And by the way, again, when I'm rounding, unless it specifies otherwise, you want to round always to the greatest place. It might say round to the nearest whole number or round to some other digit, and if it specifies, then you would round to that place. But if it does not specify, make sure that you're rounding to the greatest place value. Now here's an example where we are estimating by rounding, and we are asked to round to something other than the greatest place value. Here we are rounding to the nearest whole number. So the nearest whole number, that means we're rounding to the ones place. So we're rounding the 8, and then we're rounding the 5. And to round both of those, we look at the number right after it. So the 18.5, to round to the nearest whole number, I look at the tens place. So for 18.5, we look at the 5, and because it is 5 or bigger, the 8 would round up to a 9. So this would be 19.0 or just 19. So we have 19, and then the second number, we look at the 6, and the 6 is 5 or bigger, so the 5 would round up to a 6, which would make this 46. So what I have is approximately 19 plus 46, and when I add those, we work from right to left. 9 plus 6 is 15, so we have the 5 from 15, and then carry the 1 over here. 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 4 is 6. So my final rounded answer is going to be approximately 65.